Hello, and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynn Testoni. I'm a journalist and content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we bring you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business.
I used spreadsheets for 15 years.
Oh my God, did you?
I know. But as my business grew, I grew out of the spreadsheets.
Yes.
And it got harder to sort of keep on top of all my invoicing and quoting and things like that. And Rounded was the accounting software that finally converted me. And it helped simplify my taxes and also just let me take ownership of what goes on in my freelance business. And I love that I've got visibility over my finances, so I can see what's happening with my cash flow and all the other insights that are on the dashboard.
I know, the dashboard is so cool. I love a good pie chart, and I love the whole thing because it makes it so much easier to work it out.
Yeah.
And don't forget, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can save 20% on any annual Rounded plan, even if you're an existing customer. So see the show notes for details.
Back in the hot seat, Lynn. I think this is going to be a really busy year for freelancers. What do you think? Lots of work around at the moment, I'm finding anyway.
Yeah, totally. I'm besieged. In fact, before this, I had 2 commissions like this morning, and I'm trying to work out how I can fit it in. And this year has started out really strong for me. Lots of work. And I feel there's a lot of positive energy around, which is great.
Yep, I agree.
And I am really excited about our guest this week. I'm a big fan, and I think she's all about the positive, which we love.
Yeah.
It's Treasa Edmond, and I'm a big fan of her work, as I said, and her podcast, Boss Responses. So she'll talk a little bit about that later. She's so generous with her time, and I always love her advice on some of the online groups we're part of. She's quite active in Jennifer Gregory's group, which is Help.
Right. Yes.
And that's where I first heard of Treasa. And also I think in Melanie Paget-Power's group, she's involved too. Yeah. So shall I introduce her?
Yes, let's get her in the hot seat.
Wonderful. So Treasa Edmond is a content strategist, business coach and consultant who guides brands and freelancers to master strategic approaches to content and business growth. So we're talking a little bit about strategy today. She's the founder of Boss Responses, and she leads a dynamic platform delivering strategic insights through her podcast, blog and newsletter, and empowering freelancers to scale with confidence. Her premier program, Strategy Bosses, is a community and mastermind program where content strategists learn the art of developing and selling premium strategy services. She guides freelancers in establishing compelling market positions, attracting high-value clients, building sustainable, profitable businesses. But beyond her coaching work, she stays at the forefront of content strategy. She collaborates with industry leaders and creating strategic frameworks and evaluating emerging tools for content performance. Welcome, Treasa.
Thank you guys for having me here.
Wow, that's a lot. It is a lot.
And I think I even edited a little bit. Yeah, you do so much.
I really think some days that maybe I should just focus and stay in my lane, but I think I'd get dreadfully bored. I'm really much more of a magpie when it comes to what I do. And I want to help all of the people all of the time. And it's a compulsion.
Yeah.
So you're sort of helping clients while also running the mastermind. Is that how your split is during the week? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And the mastermind, we're actually joining together into a collaborative, and we're actually going to offer sort of an anti-agency solution. So companies that want full-scale content strategy and content creation solutions will be able to offer that because we have so many experts in that room right now. And so we're really excited about that. That's coming up this year.
Oh, how exciting.
Very cool.
I know you've been freelancing for a while, Treasa. I'm trying to remember. I think it's like 20 years or something like that, isn't it?
Yes. It makes me sound so old.
We've all been in the game for a while.
So do you want to talk a little bit about that career journey and how you started, when you added strategy to your offering and how that all worked?
Yeah, like every other journey in my life, it's not been a straight line. I don't know if you guys, you do a lot of veering and
Yes.
backtracking and doing things. Yeah.
Well, we never want to say pivot, but yeah, we do.
I've actually recently done a pivot. So yeah, that's great. I started my freelance freelancing business as an academic editor, editing dissertations primarily in ministry field, which is really random, I know. That gradually morphed into ghostwriting for the people I connected with through the editing work. So they'd get their doctoral degrees, they go out in the world, be movers and shakers, and then they didn't want to write anymore. So I would write books and stuff for them and fell in love with that. So some of my ghostwriting clients then wanted me to write for their businesses and organizations. So I started doing more content writing. So eventually one day I'm just doing writing. The editing's gone, thank the Lord. Until one day I had a client who was ready to sign a pretty huge contract, 5 figures, like mid 5 figures, for a year-long content project. And they were ready. I had me send the contract and everything, but their CMO put the brakes on and said that he wasn't comfortable doing that until they had a content strategy in place. So they came back to me and said, we really want to do this, but we need a strategy first. Do you do strategy services? And me being, who I am, I did the smart thing and said, give me a day to check my availability and to see if I can complete a project that complex in your time frame. And then I spent the next 12 hours, like overnight, because this was an afternoon thing, frantically researching content strategy because I'm a research junkie. So I pulled out my master's textbooks. I searched the internet, which had very little of any kind of value back then. And I finally called, as in picked up a physical landline phone, that ages me, right? And called a few strategists that I'd found. And 2 of them offered to let me pay for a quick consultation call. And they gave me an overview of strategy and their processes. And one of them, I loved what they said. I felt like it really went along with what my client needed. So I asked them, could we do ongoing consultation and you walk me through this if I agree to take on this strategy? And she said yes. So because I wasn't going to just sell a strategy and not be able to deliver, because I had a big contract with this client. So I ended up agreeing to do the strategy. I was very upfront. I said, strategy is a relatively new offering. That's true, right? I'm always true.
12 hours old, in fact.
It's a relatively new offering of mine, but I'm happy to do that. Let's talk what your budget is. And it ended up being, it was probably half of what I charge now, but it was seriously my first strategy. They were very generous. I told them that I would actually need to do it while I was doing the content package so that I could kind of spread it out. It wasn't very condensed and I didn't want to screw it up. And it really worked out well. I loved it. So since then, I've focused primarily on ghostwriting, content strategy, and some content writing for select clients that usually comes from the content strategy work. And that's just kind of where I've gotten to today. Then I recently pivoted. So I've been doing the service provider thing for a lot of years. And I kind of got upset because I was getting a content strategy clients, best things come from angst, right? I was getting content strategy clients who come to me and they say, my strategy's not working. I just paid for this. What is the problem? And I would look at it and they hadn't gotten a strategy. There are a lot of people out there who sell content plans as strategies. And so that's what was happening. And I decided I could either really hate on those people from afar, or I could try to change the idea that that's what a strategy was. So I pivoted and started my podcast, which is a passion project. And then I started teaching content strategy. And I did it, like I said, out of angst, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So I still do some client work, but a lot of my stuff now is in coaching and just helping other freelancers really grow their businesses.
Oh, that's exciting.
That's a good segue into, you unpacking for us the difference between strategic consulting and content strategy.
Yeah, and it's a big difference, although there are some elements that cross over there. So content strategy, a fully fledged, well-researched, developed content strategy is the process of researching the organization's content marketing needs. So that includes goals, audience research, content audit and analysis, messaging and voice alignment, distribution, competitor research, and so on. It's a big package of stuff that you do. Then from that comes specific strategic guidance and a roadmap for where they can take their content efforts from that point. So along with that goes a plan for implementing the strategy. So you're researching what needs done, you're telling them what needs done, and then you're telling them how to do it. So it's a full-scale solution across the board. So the deliverables for that include a strategy, all of the research, the strategy report, which includes all of those strategic recommendations, the implementation plan, a presentation that walks them through the strategy and the implementation plan. And then, of course, they have the option for ongoing support after all of that. And then now that's what I would say I see a lot of people selling content plans as strategies. You can see the difference there. A content plan is just a list of ideas and when to publish them.
Yeah.
And that's done after the strategy and as part of implementing that strategy in the process. So that's where my whole thing comes from. But strategic consulting is something that any of us can do. And, it just takes a strategic mindset. So it's more advisory focused. You're helping clients by solving specific problems without creating a fully researched content strategy. So think of consulting as the what should we do conversation, and content strategy is more the here's your researched roadmap. So it's a completely different thing. With consulting, you might work with a client to see why their newsletter isn't converting, why their blog posts aren't getting any traffic, or what content needs refreshed or could be repurposed. So you could do a content audit along with that. In those cases, you're solving a very specific problem that helps them improve that one part of their content system. So many clients need consulting first before they'll commit to a full content strategy, because then they see that the value you offer goes along with the prices that you're charging and stuff like that.
And that your staff and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It establishes your credibility.
Yeah. I think so many freelancers, that's where we get stuck, because we might be on a discovery call and we might end up, giving away some of that gold, which should really be under a strategic consulting fee. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. I just had a talking to with a coaching person today, and I'm like, you just gave away so much money for free.
Yeah.
So much. You don't. But that's one of my problems too.
Yeah.
So that's that sort of content strategy and that content plan. That's really, or the consulting sort of thing, that's an entry point, isn't it? So how do you upskill? This is a big thing. Again, Dia spoke to us about this too, about adding value basically to your content writing work. Is adding in that element. That seems to be a great step upwards before you go into the full scale content like research piece.
Yeah. And now you can jump right in. I would not do it. I would never do it the way I did it. I would do the training first, because it just makes things so much easier. But strategic consulting is quite often an entry point. I think it's a lower commitment for the client, and you really get the chance, like we said, to show them your value before investing in full strategy work. So, it's as simple as asking questions sometimes. If you're really wanting to start offering more strategic consulting, I always recommend that people focus on 4 things. The first one is asking better questions. So you need to change up your discovery call so that it's asking them questions and letting them talk instead of us yammering on. We need to shut our mouths so that we stop offering the free stuff and ask them the questions so we know exactly what they need. And that's the big thing. So what's your biggest content challenge right now? What's working for you? What's not working? Figure out where they need the assistance. 2 is learning how to audit content and understanding performance metrics, because that is such a valuable service that you can offer to your clients. And there are so many things that can come out of that. So refreshing content is so important right now, and repurposing it. Both of those are vital to meeting those helpful content things that are required by AI and the search engines now. 3, this is where you really put on your strategy hat, and that's understanding business goals, your client's business goals, so that you can align the content decisions and make sure that their content is actually supporting their business goals, because it's surprising how often they're producing content for the sake of producing content. And if you can guide them back into making it be more of a return on investment, they'll love you forever. It's a love thing. And then 4 is getting comfortable with advising rather than executing. I think most freelancers by nature are task completers. And you have to be willing to step back from that and offer guidance and then let go of it. And then they'll bring you in if they want that. So if you have a client wanting the service, but you don't have the needed skills, then you can always do what I did and consult with an expert strategist. I've walked many of people through content strategy or creating a messaging document because they accepted a client they started doing the thing and then they're like, I have no clue how to do this, you know? Or you can join a community or a mastermind like the one that I have that walks you through the process. Here's the advice that I give to anyone who asks me about offering strategy or any other high value service to their clients. And I'm probably a little over passionate when I do this. So, sometimes I have to like step back before I say it. It's perfectly fine to fake confidence when that evil little imposter syndrome is sitting on your shoulder, but you should never, ever, ever fake your ability or skills and then try to muddle your way through the process when you're delivering something to a client, because the clients are investing in an expert crafted solution, and delivering anything less than that is flat out dishonest. And I'm, like I said, I'm super passionate about that. So learn what you need before you accept that project, or make sure you have an expert available who can coach you through the process so that you're delivering what the client is actually paying for. Did that sound harsh?
No,
it's great.
It's really interesting. I mean, from an upskilling point of view, though, where do you start? Like, if you want to provide that big ticket item content strategy, become a strategist. I mean, you mentioned there's so much in it. There's competitive research, there's messaging, there's all of those facets. So where do you even start in upskilling?
Do you know there are a lot of resources available online? Not all of them are great. So you really have to have a lot of discernment when you're looking at that. I would find someone who does the thing and learn from them. So either go through coaching with them. I have several solutions. Like I'm in boot camp this week. So if I prattle on, it's because my brain is fried. I've been teaching people about content strategy all week. And it's an entry level thing. It's an overview. It gives you, I tell people at the beginning of the week, by the end of the day on Friday, you're either going to love content strategy and want to offer it as a service, or you're going to say, I never want to hear anything about this again. It's a not in between situation, but some people figure out they like certain parts and they want to do that strategic consulting that focuses in on that one specific skill set. So something like that gives you the idea of whether I don't think you should invest. I don't allow people to join my mastermind unless they've gone through the boot camp, because I don't want them to invest in a 9-month-long program that walks them through content strategy step by step if they don't know that strategy is what they actually want to do. And they'll know that by the end of the boot camp. So something like that, but make sure it's with someone who's reputable. Make sure they've actually done the thing. I mean, it's amazing how many people out there are like, I've done this for a year now, I'm going to teach it. And more power to them if they're actually teaching it well. But I say find an expert and learn from them. And I'm not going to say I'm the end all be all. I'm not. There are things I'm still learning about content strategy every single day. I think just and join a community. So join a community with other strategists where they're talking about strategy and just absorb things. That's where I think the best thing to do.
I do think it's interesting as a writer when you're writing content or journal, how frustrating. I mean, the reason I sometimes do the strategic piece is the frustration I feel when you know what you're writing, while it might be good, it's not meeting the needs of the client, and then they're doing that sort of scattergun. Oh, we need more content for our website, without actually thinking what sort of content should it be on the website, should it be on LinkedIn, should it be whatever. It's quite frustrating. That's why I like strategy.
Yeah. So one of the first things I did when I was working with clients, and I'm seeing this, so I'm writing good stuff, but I know it's not performing for them. And this is my thing is I hate such a strong word. Let's take that out later. Okay. But I really don't like to deliver something to my client that doesn't have the best chance of success at succeeding. And that goes with a blog post, a white paper, a case study. It doesn't matter. One of the things I found is the clients who had it together gave me really comprehensive briefs. They knew exactly what they wanted and why, and they told me what they wanted and why. So the why was so important because I knew they were having more success than the others. So I actually created a brief of my own that if a client did not give me one, I would have my discovery call and ask all of those questions. And then I would fill that brief out. I would create an outline and I would send it to them. And I would say, this is what I get out of our conversation. Is this what you want to proceed with? And immediately I stopped getting like 0 revisions, because I knew before I wrote what they wanted. Saved me a lot of time, saved them a lot of money, and it just worked out. So that is a very low entry skill set that you can develop and a service that you can offer. It it doesn't cost you anything, not even much time. You can knock one of those out in 15 minutes. And I have a template I'm happy to share with everyone that is just, it's a freebie thing that it's what I use. And if everyone uses it, it'll just make content a better thing.
Yeah, I use a client questionnaire as well, and I will give it to the client. But like you say, sometimes when you're on the phone with them, it's easier just to fill it in for them. Yeah. It's so useful. The minute I had that and created that, things changed. I agree with you. Yeah.
And you, Rachel, you deal a lot with small businesses who are less sophisticated about this. So by doing that reverse brief process, that helps them, and then they understand it's not just putting words on a page.
Yeah, exactly. And also I think those templates, if you get someone who's really ready, because so many clients, they come to you, but they're not ready. And you realize, you go through all this kind of hoo-ha, and then you realize, oh, you're actually not at a point when you want to hire me. There's things you need to do before that. But giving them that client questionnaire can be a really good process for them to determine if they're ready, and to take all the stuff out of their head that they might not be able to tell you. They have to really sit down and think about the project. So it can be really useful having that. We've got one at Rachel's List, which is based on the one that I use, but every freelancer needs something like that for sure.
Yeah, go download Rachel's. This is one of those entry points into strategic consulting as well, because I've had 5 or 6 clients that I've sent that brief to, and they were so impressed with it that they hired me to come into their business, set up their content governance system, and then tell them how to create briefs like that for writers. So that was straight up strategic consulting. That's a lot of money from just doing a blog post for someone and giving them a brief saying, hey, is this what you want? It's pretty low entry.
That's my next question, because I think the big question with this strategy is you can charge a lot more for this sort of service, can't you? And there are a lot of clients that are willing to pay more money.
Yeah, a lot. It's pretty significant, actually, because clients are paying, when they're paying for a strategy, one, it's an investment. It's not just buying a service. So it's an investment, and it's also not a deliverable. You're solving a problem. And that's different. So a blog post might be $500 or $1,000, but that strategy that drives the right content that's going to actually convert for them for the next year, that's worth tens of thousands, or even more. So it's a significant difference. It's an apples and oranges equation, honestly, because writing is very much a task-based execution. There are strategic elements you can put in there. You can do some strategic consulting along with that, but actual strategic consulting and then doing content strategy, so executing and delivering a full content strategy, that is a highly specialized expert. Well, it requires expertise, but it's a full-scale solution that you're offering them to a problem that they have. And I think that's the biggest shift in pricing something like this, is you have to stop thinking that you're offering a deliverable. You're not. You're offering a solution. So you just really need to look at that. And it's a huge difference. It's a huge, huge difference. And I get a lot of pushback on that when people come through the mastermind, and I'm telling them, even for the smallest content strategy, you never charge less than $5,000, because it's worth more than that to them. And they're like, no. It's people are very resistant to charge what something is worth, and it's quite something.
So if that is like, your baseline charge, is that what you would consider a project pricing, or is that more value price? It sounds like it's value-based pricing.
Yeah,
you're thinking
absolutely.
beyond.
Yeah.
How would you calculate that though? Like when you're quoting.
Okay, so that's the tricky thing. So if you're calculating value-based pricing for a white paper, that's pretty easy. You ask them what the cost of converting one person is on that white paper. And if they say it's $1 million, they have no problem paying you $25,000 for a white paper. I know people are clinching up when they hear those numbers, but it's actually really common because you're assessing the value of your writing. You're providing something that they're making a huge profit on, right? So that's kind of where that goes. Value-based pricing on content strategy, you kind of have to look at what the value of that is to them, but it's so much more ambiguous, right? Because the strategy, you're looking at the value of it to the client, You're positioning the work as an investment instead of an executed task. But if you look at a strategy that helps a business increase conversions by 20%, that's significantly more valuable than you could ever put in just a simple project rate. That's why that discovery call is so important. You have to figure out what the value of this is and what problem you're solving for them. So you can do very targeted content strategies. So I've done content strategies on just a new product launch. So finding all of their old content that'll work, making sure they have a strategy moving forward with this. If they sold one of those products, it's kind of like the white paper pricing. So I'm able to kind of figure out the value on that. And you also have to look at the same type of content strategy for an enterprise level business has a different value than it does for a startup. For the startup, it might be worth $15,000, $20,000. For the enterprise level business, it's easily worth $50,000 or up because you're giving them so much more. You're doing so much more research and the results are higher for them. So you have to kind of scale that with it. It is difficult to do value-based pricing. And when I first started, I had a series of numbers I kind of went with. My goal, though, I always talk about internal hourly rates, which you're not selling your time. You're not selling your time with a content strategy. Time is not a factor. It's the solution. But I never want my time to drop below $300 an hour.
Yeah.
So, and I'm never going to have a strategy that gets anywhere even close to that. Most of the time it's closer to $600 to $1,000 an hour because it's work. I mean, it's some serious brain work to do a content strategy, and there's quite a bit of busy work too. And I outsource that. So I bring in people who are specialists at that stuff to do it because it saves me time. It saves me time and energy. So you kind of have to factor all of that stuff in, but just know that for them, it's an investment. So you're starting with an investment and you're looking at rates for that. Strategic consulting is different. For that, you can definitely do project rates because you're solving a finite problem. So you're still looking at what the value is to them, but it's like writing a case study. It's higher value than a blog post because they're getting more out of it, but you just have to kind of figure out what that is. And you should always start with their budget because if you don't, you're leaving money on the table every single time. Never, ever just quote a price. Because if you go to an enterprise level organization and say, okay, we're going to do this strategy, what's your budget for this? They're going to say $85,000. And you were thinking, I could probably get $50,000 for this. That's $35,000 left on the table just because you didn't ask what their budget was. So you always want to start there.
So interesting. So at the beginning, are there great questions? Do you have some great questions to ask when you're talking about a project or when you're sort of in that discovery sort of phase? Some good open questions, yes.
I have an entire list of questions. And then I have sub questions to my questions. I'm not a checklist person, but when it comes to content strategy, there are so many moving pieces that I do checklists. But yeah, the first thing I do is I look at budget availability and can I deliver a strategy that will have the highest possible chance of success. So I ask my qualifying questions on my intake form, and I'm very diligent on any project I work on doing that. So I start with that. And then during that discovery call, like I said, it's a 30-minute call. 20 minutes of that is asking them questions. Well, to give you an example, I asked for an overview of their business, of their industry. I want to know about their target audience. What do they know about them? What target audience research have they done? Was that actual research or was that Bob in product marketing who just sat down and wrote up a persona? Because that's a real situation that's happened in my life. I asked them to tell me about their current content strategy. If they have one, has it been effective? What are they wanting to change about it? Are they just wanting to use it as a basis of more targeted strategies for starting a specific channel or launching a product? I clarify scope and I start exploring what their goals are. So that's business goals and content goals so that I can start getting an idea of what they want their strategy to accomplish. And then I ask questions to determine what research is going to be needed because that dramatically increases pricing if they need a whole lot of research done from scratch. And the most important question I ask them is what a successful strategy will look like for them. Because I know what a successful strategy does for me, and they might need something that's a fraction of that. And I need to be aware of that and not try to sell them something more than they actually want.
Yeah, great.
Fascinating. Well, I suppose this is a really good time to talk about strategies around actually finding clients. What are some of your favorite lead gen strategies?
This is an interesting question because people are like, well, I send LOIs when I do strategy and I send LOIs and I never get a response. And I'm like, you're never going to, because no one's going to pay you $25,000 because you sent them a cold email. It's just not going to happen.
Interesting.
Strategy is relationship based. So I do everything relationship. I'm a relational person. It's difficult for some people to do this, but I start by leveraging relationships. So past clients, I ask for referrals. I go into online communities and I offer value so that I'm building relationships with people. I've really found that while marketing works pretty great for writing, my best strategy clients are almost always referrals or people I've connected with personally in some way. And that's kind of the same, if you want to work with any higher value client, authority building, adds on to that as well. So you really want to post helpful content on, LinkedIn, wherever they are, do guest articles in their trade magazines, in the magazines that they read, do podcast appearances on podcasts that they would listen to. So you're not marketing to other freelancers, you're actually going where your ideal client is and you're creating content for them. And then create your own thought leadership and build a thought leadership platform where you show your expertise in strategy and what you do. I also prefer, like I said, warm out instead of cold pitching. So that means engaging with them where they are through comments, sharing insights, and providing that value that I talked about on social media or wherever they're hanging out. Any way you can offer value is a good idea. So teaching and speaking are great. Go to the conferences that they go to, offer workshops, give a webinar, even create a course that can help them solve a very specific problem in their company. That's how you attract high value clients who are ready to pay for your expertise because they're borrowing your expertise. They're not hiring you to do something. And it's a mindset shift. It definitely is.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
I mean, you do a lot of coaching. You have your own community, your mastermind. I'm always really interested to talk to other community builders because of Rachel's list. So what sort of questions are you finding freelancers are asking you right now?
Yeah, first I want to acknowledge that running a community takes a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
This is, yeah. Just saying, for those who are in there, we do a lot of stuff behind the scenes to make it
that
good
you
for
don't know about. Yeah.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
So I really, I focus on teaching about partnering with your clients and providing value and finding premium clients. So I do things like that. So the questions I hear most often, and I mean, boss responses, you see a pretty good cross question of just people who have basic freelance questions. But the ones I get from the people who are ready to kind of take their business to the next level are, how do I raise my rates? Or how do I move beyond low or mid-paying work? That's a huge one. How do I attract better clients? And that requires an entire shift in your messaging. You have to talk specifically to your ideal client. How can I change my business so I'm working less or earning more?
Yeah.
You're building the business that supports your lifestyle. You're not doing the other way around, And it's often not just about skills. It's kind of, they ask about confidence and positioning and how do I build a business and systems and strategies that are going to get me from where I am now to where I want to be in 5 years. So a lot of the questions I attract are really, how do I get from point A to point B? So it's from the people who know what point B is. So you have to know where you want to go, and then you can ask the right questions.
Interesting.
Wow. I wanted to talk a little bit. We're going to talk about sort of mistakes that freelancers make. And I guess that's part of what are the questions I hear on boss responses when I've listened to it. I mean, do you see some common mistakes?
I really do. I actually see several. The first is pricing. So pricing too low and not charging based on the value of the project to the client. This is the mistake, though. It's thinking that it's based on your value, because it's not.
Yes.
We need to take ourselves out of the equation. This is
That's a
business
great mind
transaction.
shift.
Yeah. So it's about the problem that you're solving for your clients and the value of that problem to them. So while you might not be comfortable asking for $3,000 for what you consider a simple project, it's worth that and more to them, which is why you never just throw a price out there, without finding out what their budget is first, because they know what they want to invest in that. If they're lower than what your minimum is, then you just say, this isn't a good fit for me, but I'm happy to refer you to someone who would be able to take this on for you, right? The second is taking on every client.
Yeah.
And you need, I mean, I love what Ed Gandia says about niching down. It doesn't have to be a horizontal niche. It doesn't have to be a specific industry or a type of thing. You can actually niche down horizontally, which is what I've done. I offer ghostwriting and I offer content strategy, and I do it for a wide variety of people in a wide variety of industries. But I have focused and I have changed my positioning so that I'm speaking to the people that I want to work with. You can't talk to everyone and expect to find high value clients. You just can't. And not every client is meant to be your client. You really have to ditch that scarcity mindset to be able to say no. And that's the first step, I think, to growing a sustainable business, is being able to say no to clients that aren't a good fit. The third one is no contract or agreement or some type of scope creep protection. That's a one-way trip to burnout. And it's a one-way trip to really not liking your clients anymore. So it doesn't have to be a formal contract. It could be a very clearly outlined email that talks about what the parameters of the project are. But that's work that you should be doing. And I see a lot of freelancers who are still living in a handshake world, and we're well beyond that. And then finally, focusing on deliverables instead of positioning yourself as a strategic partner. This is where I am right now. And I've been doing a lot of studying and thinking and talking on this. And I'm starting a new coaching program that actually helps with this. But with AI as kind of a steady player in the picture now, it's changed marketing. And I really, truly believe that those freelancers who are partnering with their clients and offering strategic value, they are the ones with better positioning, and they're the ones whose businesses are going to continue to succeed. And I really firmly believe that.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, I imagine there are people out there thinking, I'm not at that stage, or I want to be. I'm so, not confident about getting to that point. And I know it's something we see a lot with Rachel's list as well. There's such a wide spectrum of confidence out there in the freelance world. What are your tips on building more confidence as a freelancer?
Well, I think the first one goes to what you just said. I'm not at that stage. Well, the only way to get to that stage is to move forward.
Yeah.
So you have to take at least baby steps. You have to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And whatever that is, you kind of have to break down those barriers and keep going. I really think confidence comes from clarity. So clarity on your value or the value of what you're offering. If you can't get clear on your value and have confidence in that, then have confidence in the value of what you're offering to your clients, the problems you're solving. And everyone's solving a problem. Most people just don't think of it that way. Yeah. Have clarity on your pricing so that you can be confident about that when you're talking about it. And then that positioning. So if you know who your ideal clients are and become the master at what you do, then you kind of naturally become more confident. Now, I've mentioned this earlier, imposter syndrome is always going to be there. I have never talked to a freelance business owner who doesn't still deal with imposter syndrome. I would love to meet one who doesn't and find out their secret. But you have to learn to mitigate the effect it has on you. So realize it's going to happen and then just kind of take steps to prevent it, or at least make sure it's not crippling you. Because if you allow it to become the most important thing, then it is the most important thing. Some of the things I recommend to my coaching clients is to track your wins and results. Create a swipe file of every nice thing a client ever says about you. That can be really empowering when you're feeling like you're not offering value. Practice saying no to low-paying work.
Yeah.
Like, don't just expect to do it the first time on a call. You need to practice saying that to a mirror, to your spouse, to your partner, to a stranger on the street. No, I'm not accepting your low-paying project. Make it more professional, obviously. But if you practice saying that, then you have the confidence to say it when you need to. Reframe rejection. I'm huge on reframing. Rejection is not personal. It's a misalignment between you and that organization. I heard an influencer talking once. He actually is the CEO of a very large business. And he said he's had to reject a lot of business proposals over the years and freelancers and things like that. And he said he cannot remember a single time that it was a personal thing. It was a misalignment with his business goals in that moment, and he had to say no to it because that's his job. So when we think about that, and we think about when we say no, we're not rejecting our clients. We're making the best choice for us. That's what our potential clients are doing themselves as well. And then here's the big one, community. So surround yourself with supportive, like-minded freelancers who understand what you're going through. And when you're having one of those moments, reach out to someone, even if it's individually, and say, I've got to send this in and I'm really having doubts about it. And just let them, encourage you or bully you, whatever it takes to get you to take that next step. I think those are all really huge.
It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great
so
tips there.
interesting. Yeah. I don't want to get into politics, but the US is in a big state of change, and you're based in Missouri, as we talked, right in the center there. And it is having some repercussions everywhere. But I know a lot of freelancers find change threatening or scary, but it can also be a great opportunity, can't it?
Yeah, it really can. I'm one that doesn't like change. I actually have a LinkedIn post I've been working on
I was
about
just reading that.
how I don't like change. Yeah, I finished it, didn't I? I posted it. See, it's been that kind of a week. Yeah, I really change bothers me. But you have to realize if it bothers you. But yeah, change does bring opportunity. I will freely admit that the atmosphere here is kind of oppressive right now. And that can have a mental impact on your ability to run your business. So I think that we can't necessarily get behind the change. We might not really want to deal with it at all. What we can do is find a way to cope.
Yeah.
Find a way to build ourselves back up and then look for the opportunities. I think the key to success is adaptability. So companies need strategy more now than ever. They're rethinking content because marketing is changing. It's becoming more relational and community building. Branding is different. Audience engagement is different. So the freelancers who can offer solutions instead of just services, they are the ones that right now they can grab a hold of this and really build stronger businesses, I think.
Interesting, because we have so many listeners, like a lot of them are all over the world, mainly in Australia, who are quite keen to always find US clients because it can mean a bigger paycheck. What would be your tips to, locking in overseas clients, and what are the challenges to doing that?
So it comes back to positioning and messaging, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So make it clear that you understand US markets. Talk about the things that they care about. I know a lot of people who work from other places that never tell their clients where they are. Your clients don't need to know. Once you get to that solution offering thing, as long as you can be there when they need you on a call, or fly in if they need you at an in-person meeting, that's all that matters to them. They don't care where in the world you're working. They care that you're solving a problem for them. But to get them, you need to really get that messaging dialed in for the client that you want. And that means engaging with them wherever they are. So LinkedIn, join private Slack groups where they live, but always offer value. Don't just drop into their DMs, pitch them. That is the most annoying thing, is it not?
Yes,
I have to, it happens to me like 3 times a week. And I'm like, do you really think I want to write back to them? And I want to say, this is not a productive use of your time. And it really puts people off. But then I know they're not going to listen. So I don't. I just ignore them. But it's a huge thing. And then showcase your results. Put case studies out there and stories of client success. That helps prove your expertise. You can also consider working with US-based agencies and, take on subcontracting opportunities. Like I subcontract sometimes. So really form those connections and network and find the people who can get you the experience that you need to kind of get in that market. And that's what I would recommend. But offer value 100% of the time and make sure your messaging is dialed in. I think that's going to be one of the biggest things I talk about all of 2025.
I love that.
Now, I'd love to have a quick chat about your podcast because I do love it, Boss Responses. So tell us a bit about how long it's been going. And I'd love you to take us through a little potted thing of how it works because it's a bit unusual, your format.
It is. So it's been going for about a year now, but not consistently. We had a chat before we started recording that one of my biggest regrets is that I haven't been more consistent with the podcast. And it's because I'm like any other person. I allow overwhelm to happen, and I'm like, I got to take a break from this. But I have it set up now to where it's going to be really consistent for the foreseeable future. So I'm excited about that. It is a unique format, and it's a fun format. When I was deciding to do it, I was thinking, I've done this for years. I've offered advice to other freelancers. I've offered scripting. I've talked them through the problems that they have. But the whole point of boss responses is we have to step up and be the boss of our business. But there's 1,000 ways to run a business. And I'm one person. So I wanted to bring those other perspectives onto the podcast. So I decided on a co-host format, but instead of having one other perspective, I would bring a new co-host on every week. And we have 5 episodes a week. The first 4 are short ones for those people who are on the go or they need something to do while they're washing dishes or setting in carpool or whatever it is. Those are, 10 to 15 minutes. We answer a listener question. So anyone that has a question they want answered on the podcast, send them to me. I covet those. I really, really want those. So we answer those questions. And then the Friday episode, we really look at one specific problem. So how do you find those higher value clients? How do you niche down? How do you decide on your pricing? Because it's not asking every other freelancer what they charge for the thing. It needs to be based on what your business needs to bring in. And I'm really surprised at how many freelancers don't do that. And a lot of it's just stepping up and leading your business. One of my favorite topics, and it's the one that I teach on a lot, is client management. So partnering with your clients as equals. You're not working for them. You're working with them to, meet an objective or do a goal. So we talk about client management a lot on there. And there's some tough love. We do tough love. We don't pull punches on there. We do try to always be polite, but sometimes there's a topic that just gets your blood going. But it's a fun podcast. It really, truly is. And I've made so many great friends and met so many interesting people through that. And I'm learning about parts of freelancing that I forgot about because it's become second nature to me. And I'm having to look at that through new eyes. I absolutely adore it.
Isn't that interesting? It's so true what you say about how you meet amazing people. Since we started our podcast, I just feel like my freelance world and world view in general has just expanded so much with the people that Lynn and I have met, who we'd never have had a chance to meet in any other way. So, it's an amazing medium for that. But yes, look, we could talk to you all day, but I wanted to get to one of our final questions, which is something we ask all our guests, and it's about, their favorite tech tips or the digital tools they'd be lost without. And I know that you love a system and a tool, so take us through yours.
It would take me days to go through all of the content strategy ones. So I'm going to focus on the ones that I use in my business. Notion and Trello keep me organized and going.
Lynn's a Trello fan.
I love Trello.
I have used Trello since I started ghostwriting. And because writing a book is as complicated a process pretty much as doing a content strategy, there are so many moving pieces and I need to be able to track those. And I love that I can move those cards. It's very satisfying. Very satisfying. You can do the same thing in Notion, but I use Trello for the card thing. And then in Notion, I use it to store, like if I'm writing a blog post for boss responses, it's in there and then I have the text. So Notion is my living brain. All of the things go in there so that I can keep track of them because you heard my intro. I have way too many irons in the fire. So Notion and Trello for project management. Descript, I use that for auditing the podcast and videos and things like that. It lets me do it. I'm a Word person and it lets you edit with a transcript. So I can go in there and cut out parts based on words. And if I had to set and edit with regular video editing software, it would just kill me. But I've developed a new love for CapCut.
Oh, we don't know that one.
It's got some fun stuff with it and it's free. I mean, you can pay for the fancy one, but if I do a workshop and I need to cut out all of those moments that I said something really stupid, because that does happen, I can go into CapCut and I can clean that up so that anyone watching the replay gets the better version of the workshop.
Yes.
I've got to get onto that. I say silly things all the time.
We all do.
Wow. Oh, they're good. Well, we'll pop them in the show notes along with, tell us where people can find you and all about that.
Yeah, so the biggest place is Boss Responses. So that's bossresponses.com. The podcast stuff lives on there so that you can find it. That this website has been giving me issues. So fair warning, I'm building a new one and it will launch. I don't know when this is coming out, but it's going to launch in the next week or so.
Yeah.
So new and updated website. I also have a blog on there. So I offer quite a bit of information through the blog, and you can sign up for my newsletter. I have that. I also have strategybosses.com. So right now, everything kind of lives on Boss Responses, and the strategy stuff is moving. It's migrating to Strategy Bosses. So I'm creating a divide between those so that I can really specialize in what I offer, both of those. And then LinkedIn. I'm on there. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. I get a little spicy on LinkedIn. So if you want to see spicy Treasa, go to LinkedIn. That's where I do that. So
It was such a joy talking to you today,
It's
Treasa.
amazing.
So many wonderful practical tips, and I think it was so good to have you.
Very
Thank you
useful
so
episode
much.
for our listeners.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you again for having me on here.
Yeah, and we'll put all those links in the show notes, and you can connect with Treasa however.
Yeah.
And thank you. We'll see you, all our listeners, again next week.
We will. Thanks. Everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks again to our wonderful sponsors, Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software that helps freelancers run their business with confidence.
And don't forget, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can check your welcome emails for an exclusive discount code on the annual subscription rate. You can also find it in the private Facebook Gold group, or just contact us at hello@rachelslist.com.au.